Hey everybody, it's Cass and Core TV. It's your girl, Miss Public Info, here with the latest and greatest and sometimes hated updates of the most high-profile cases going on around the country. We have a jam-packed show today, a lot to go over, so let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the Sean Combs prison facility and what the response from Judge Submaranian was with this. Judge Submaranian did give a response as to what he would recommend to the Bureau of Prisons, and I want to go over that because there was some misconception in the comments. One thing about the comments, I appreciate everyone engaging and all of that, but if anyone um, puts in any information that is misrepresenting or is flat out wrong, like it's not accurate, I will delete the comments. The reasons for that is because part of the Cast and Court TV channel is about teaching people how to interpret the law or understand the law and the legal process in the correct fashion. So if there's something on there that can be easily misinterpreted or it is just flat out wrong, the mods will delete the comments. Now, um there was a comment in I think 2 episodes ago or an episode ago as it related to the Fort Dix prison request from Sean Combs, this team, and someone put in the comment, well, the judge said no, or something of that nature. And that is not true. And now I have the order up, and I'm going to talk about what the judge said, and we're going to talk about what the interpretation of what he said and what it means. Now, on October 8th, which was 2 days ago, and it was at the end of the day, like nighttime, when Judge Submaranian likes to give his replies to these sorts of requests. Judge Submaranian filed an order and he talked about what he is actually going to recommend. Now, this is in response to Sean Combs' team, requesting that the judge essentially recommend that to the Bureau of Prisons that the designation for Sean Combs's stay or sentence would be the Fort Dix location. To which Judge Submaranian asked the Department of Justice what their opinion was on it. Department of Justice had no issue on it. Of course, there's been a lot of analysis from myself included as to, what this could all mean for Sean Combs because essentially he doesn't really qualify. But the judge said he does qualify for the RDAP program, but he did not say that he qualified for Fort Dix's RDAP program. So let's go into the response. The judge said the following: the court will recommend a facility in the geographic location of the defense's choosing. It could be anywhere, but not the specific facility. He said that they're not going to recommend a specific facility to the Bureau of Prisons because that is determined by the Bureau of Prisons. So it wasn't a no because Sean Combs doesn't qualify to be in Fort Dix or doesn't qualify for an RDAP program or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He doesn't want him to have a shorter sentence. He is essentially saying, we will recommend that the geographic location be of the defense's choosing, but what we will not recommend is the specific facility because that is the business of the Bureau of Prisons and we want to stay out of that. He goes on, he said, for that reason, the court will include the following recommendation based on the defense's request, the request for Fort Dix. He says, in quote, the court recommends that the defendant be incarcerated as close as possible to the New York metropolitan area and recommends that the defendant be considered for admission to any available substance abuse program, including the Bureau of Prisons residential drug abuse program for which he qualifies. Essentially, we are saying that we want him to be as close as possible to the New York metropolitan area, which is his defense team's recommendation or what their request is. And we recommend that he be considered for the admission to any available substance abuse program, which includes the Bureau of Prisons RDAP's program for which he qualifies. So they're not saying that he qualifies for the judge is not saying that he qualifies for the Fort Dix program, but what he's saying is we recommend that he be admitted to a program for which he does qualify for. So that could be anywhere, but definitely would recommend that he be within the New York metropolitan area as requested by his defense team. So, um, he goes on and he says, if there is a different geographic location that the defense seeks, please advise the court by Friday today at 12 p.m. Now, it's past 12 p.m. Eastern now. We've not heard anything from Sean Combs' team on additional locations. So we are to assume that they are just looking at the New York metropolitan area. Now, Fort Dix is in New Jersey, which is still within, the geographical area that he would want to be in, which is the reason why his team, recommended the Fort Dix location. So that is the order from Judge Submaranian, so ordered on October 8th. So that is officially Judge Submaranian's response to all of this. He's saying, look, we're not going to recommend a specific location, but we will recommend the geographic location. And we are recommending to the Bureau of Prisons to admit Sean Combs or consider admitting Sean Combs for a substance abuse program, including RDAP, for which he qualifies. It would need to obviously be a program for which he qualifies. Now, at Fort Dix, it's arguable whether or not Sean Combs qualifies for the Fort Dix RDAP program, because that particular program requires that you don't have any violence on your record, that you're a nonviolent offender. Now, he can definitely go into some other programs that may not have those same requirements, but if that is the requirement of the Fort Dix location, he's simply disqualified or ineligible based upon his conviction, which includes a violence or force sentencing enhancer on the conviction. So that's literally the judge's response. And I wanted to clear that up because there were some misrepresentations in the comments, and I don't want anyone to be confused when watching and also when reading through the comments. Also, I wanted to also pinpoint too, because we had some other additional comments about, whether or not I was going to go over some of these civil cases. We've gone over a myriad of, a collection rather, of Sean Combs' civil cases. We will not be going over every single one of Sean Combs' civil cases. It's just an impossibility. There are so many. Also, one of the other reasons we're not going over all of Sean Combs' civil cases is because there are a number of them that are frivolous, essentially. And so we're only pinpointing the ones that, have some weight to them, or if there is a reason why we want to focus on one that is frivolous, just to sort of show as an example as to why this would not go anywhere. But we've cherry picked specific cases to talk about in the Sean Combs matter. And believe me, if you guys go through these episodes, I'm going to make a playlist that just has the Sean Combs, topics episodes on there so you can go through them. But if you look at these episodics, I mean, we have covered the Sean Combs case ad nauseum. So at this point, like anything you want to know that has transpired within the courtroom process, we have covered that. But certainly to cover, all 80 plus of the Sean Combs civil cases would be an impossibility. But we have covered at least 5 or 6 of them. Someone asked about the Anna Kane civil case. We won't be covering the Anna Kane civil case, mostly because that civil case is probably not going to go anywhere. But we will stay tuned if there is any, burgeoning development that we need to cover with that. But essentially, we probably won't cover that one. But there are other civil cases in the Sean Combs matter that we will absolutely cover. Absolutely. But not every single one of them. So I hope that helps to answer some questions that people have about what we're covering and what we're not covering. And we have to be very sort of selective about the things that we're cherry picking anyway, because we want to make sure people are interested in all of that. Okay, moving on. Letitia James. Now, you all know her, should know her. If you don't, Letitia James is a brilliant Black woman who is the Attorney General of the state of New York. And she was indicted by the Department of Justice yesterday evening. The indictment came through sometime in the evening hours. And no one is surprised about the indictment, simply because she is a foe of Donald Trump. She is the attorney general that went after Donald Trump in between um, his first term as president and in between this term as president. So she went after him, and now he's going after her. So let's talk about that. So Letitia James was indicted yesterday evening in Alexandria, Virginia. This, of course, is Donald Trump's Justice Department, Pam Bondi, who is reckless and a mess. They continue to pursue charges against his political opponents. This is essentially his own sort of vengeful revenge tour, which is completely unconstitutional for a president to do. I want to say that up at the top. Now, Attorney General James has been under investigation since May over a 2023 mortgage she took out to buy a home in Norfolk, Virginia. And Thursday's indictment focused on a 2020 mortgage for a different property in Norfolk. Now, some grand jury that they composed, I don't know where they got these folks, if that even happened. I'm leery about all of this, actually. Returned two felony charges, bank fraud, and I would call the felony charges likely fictitious, much like the James Comey felony charges, but I digress. Two felony charges, bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. James's first court appearance is scheduled for October 24th in Norfolk. And according to the indictment, James claimed on the mortgage paperwork that a home that she purchased in Norfolk would be her second residence. And that claim allowed her to get a favorable loan terms not available for investment properties, prosecutors say. But prosecutors allege that Attorney General James did not use the house and instead rented the property to a family of three. And they allege that she falsely stated in her loan application paperwork that the residence would be a secondary home when they alleged James knew she would not be using the property for herself and that she would be using it as essentially as investment property. Now, according to the indictment, James received a lower mortgage rate on the property as a secondary mortgage than she would have had it been treated as an investment property all along. And the DOJ is alleging that um, Attorney General James received improper gains of around 18,000 over the life of the loan. The charges come, of course, as Donald Trump continues to call for his enemies to be prosecuted in court. Of course, we remember that former FBI Director James Comey, whose daughter was also unceremoniously fired from the Department of Justice after prosecuting the Epstein and Combs cases. But her father, who was the former FBI director, James Comey, pleaded not guilty on Wednesday to allegedly making a false statement in a congressional proceeding. And that's also widely known as fake news, as are the indictments against Attorney General James. The Justice Department has also opened an investigation to other opponents of Donald Trump. It could not be more obvious to any person as to what is happening here. But these people include former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, and of course, California Democratic Senator, my senator for my congressional district, actually, Adam Schiff, namely those two people, among others. So of course, Attorney General James responded in a statement, and she said the following. She said, "This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost." She added, "The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order." Yes, it is, and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. Absolutely. Now, you might be wondering, well, what did she do to Donald Trump? Well, she prosecuted him, is what she did. Essentially, during an 11-week trial, she prosecuted him for bad business dealings as it related to as it related to his a civil fraud case. Okay. Now, Trump and his sons and his real estate business had a civil fraud case against them. And the judge found them liable for fraud for inflating the value of their properties and ordered Trump to pay $355 million in penalties. Now, a New York appeals court tossed the penalties and Trump has appealed the verdict. Okay. So since then, Trump's anger has been more than palpable against Attorney General James, and he rallied against her in the courtroom hallways during the case and from the witness stand. Trump testified as Attorney General sat in the courtroom from the galley and watched as her prosecutors argued the case. So he's called what she railed against him a political witch hunt. And now that he is in a position of power, obviously, again, as the president, I can't believe y'all let that happen. Good Lord. Now he is utilizing his seat, his presidential executive branch seat, to come after her, which is unconstitutional yet again. So we are going to get back, we'll get back to you guys on this. We'll keep you updated, but we have to remember also that Donald Trump removed the prosecutors that he had put on the Comey and the Letitia James indictment because the prosecutor on the case at the time was Eric Siebert, and Eric said that he could not support any criminal charges against both James Comey and Letitia James. So then Trump canned him and then brought in his personal attorney, Lindsay Halligan, to prosecute these cases, though she has never prosecuted a case in her life because she is a defense attorney. Okay. So essentially, he just wanted somebody in his coffers who would do what he wanted to do. That's essentially what all of this is posed under. This is justice. This is revenge, is what it is, guys. Plain and simple. That's all it is. This is revenge, and it's unconstitutional. And to borrow a line from President Barack Obama, who will always be the president, who is obviously someone that gets under Donald Trump's skin. Imagine if I would have done half of what he is doing. That's what Barack Obama said. Imagine if Barack had did half of what Donald Trump is doing. They'd have him under the jail. There's no way he would have been reelected for a second term. What does that tell you about this place we live in called America? It tells you a lot without having to say a whole lot. Okay, we're going to move on to our next order of business here. I can't take it. It's Friday. It's not supposed to be this deep up in here. Okay, it really is not. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let us talk about it. We were just talking about this situation. These folks, Wendy Williams, that's her ex-husband, Mr. Kevin Hunter. We were just talking about them just the other day. Now, this, of course, is Wendy and Kevin during, I propose, happier times. I'm not sure how to say that. Goodness. But Kevin Hunter's, I mentioned to you guys a couple of days ago that Kevin Hunter was actually filed a $250 million lawsuit against Wendy's conservatorship, against the guardianship, this Sabrina person, the whole Wells Fargo guardianship, and the Sabrina person who's the lawyer and guardian, supposed guardian for Wendy Williams, that he had filed suit against them so that he could get her off from under the guardianship, the conservatorship. And he was also seeking damages. And part of those damages was he felt like he was entitled to some of her money because of the fact that he was her manager and he should have gotten that. Let's not even include the fact that he's received his alimony, his, settlement on that, and is still begging for more money. Okay, but I digress. Now, in a case of better luck next time, Kevin Hunter has had his lawsuit thrown out by a court judge, by out of court by the judge. Okay. Now he filed the $250 million case earlier this year, seeking to end Wendy's guardianship while seeking damages. Wendy branded him as a money grubber. Now, of course, some people might be like, well, he's trying to get her out of the guardianship. Yeah, but what is his motivation? Kevin Hunter is not interested in helping Wendy. Kevin Hunter is interested in helping himself. He only wants Wendy out of the guardianship so that he can come after her for the bulk of her money. That is essentially it, because as long as she is under guardianship and she is deemed as a person that can't be culpable, then he can't come after her. So the guardianship, the conservatorship, one good thing about it is that it locks him out of getting his hands on her money. But the rest of the guardianship and conservatorship is completely wrong and, in my opinion, criminal. But that's another topic. Now, there, among the new twists to the ongoing legal drama with, Wendy and her ex-husband, is that the suit that was filed in June is no longer. And he, in that suit, accused her guardian, the Sabrina Morrissey lawyer woman, of exploiting her, and also urged for a forensic audit of her accounts. Okay. Now, the judge threw out the case, stating that Kevin could not act as her friend in the case. So apparently, he stated that he was acting as her friend and that he was a concerned party. But really, there is no connection to Wendy's monies and Kevin Hunter legally as it stands right now. There is no connection, which is the reason why he had to deem himself as her friend. The judge said, can't deem yourself as her friend. Okay. You're not her husband, so you have no legal rights here. So what is it? Who are you? So the judge then threw the case out, but he did give him an opportunity to refile, perhaps properly. The judge says, you can file again, but you have to do so in your own name instead of filing on Wendy's behalf. That was the problem. You can't just file on Wendy's behalf and say, I'm doing this as her friend, when you have no legal connection to her anymore. You're no longer married to Wendy Williams. But this, of course, was a ploy in order to be better positioned to get his hands on Wendy's money. So essentially, if and when he refiles the case, he will refile as Kevin Hunter. That is it, concerned or not, but it's for himself. And then the judge will proceed from there. And I gather that he will have a harder time getting any sort of respect in that lawsuit because he has no real legal placement in Wendy Williams's life anymore. As I stated to you guys, Wendy is just in a really tough jam with all of these, as she called Kevin Hunter, money grubbing people who are just after her clearly for her ends. This is just so unfortunate. And I, again, wish her the best. And I just think all of this is just very criminal. It really is, to take advantage of this woman in this way. But we will stay tuned on the Kevin Hunter of it all to see where this case goes. But it is just ridiculous. Now, a new case this morning. Oh my goodness. I cannot. These people make me laugh because I have had it with these like reality people. Because it's clear to me that, these people get into these, positions, and then they just go nutso. They just go crazy. They go crazy. They go crazy nutso. Okay, now this is Real Housewives of Potomac. Dr. Wendy Osifo. I'm probably saying her name incorrectly, so forgive me for that, the Osifo fans. But this is she and her husband Eddie Osifo, and they've both now been arrested and booked, rather, arrested and booked on fraud charges. Now, imagine becoming a whole doctor and still finding yourself in trouble with the law for fraud. Let's talk about it, guys. Now, Wendy, Dr. Wendy, who is 41, and her husband, Eddie, are facing 16 charges, seven of which are felonies related to an alleged false and misleading info fraud. That's what the legal docs say, in excess of $300. This is what the Westminster Police Department has confirmed. Um, which is odd that they would be in trouble for $300. Fraud related or false and misleading info fraud in excess of $300. Apologies, guys. In excess of $300 means more than $300. So we don't know what the exact figure is. Oh my goodness. I was about to be like, what? Okay. So they are let me start over so I can be more accurate. So they're facing these 16 charges, seven of which are felonies, and this is related to an alleged, in quote, false misleading info fraud in excess of $300. This is more than $300. Now, the pair were booked in Westminster, Maryland, where they live, on Thursday, October 9th, just yesterday. And according to the police, the couple claimed that designer bags and jewelry were missing from their bedroom during a reported burglary in Jamaica. This is back last year in April of 2024. This before Wendy was allegedly seen. This was before Wendy was allegedly seen wearing one of the diamond rings in a later social media post. So, what are they saying? They're saying that back in April 2024, where they were reportedly burgled, they reported that there were missing items from their bedroom. But then, after the burglary, so-called burglary occurred, she was actually seen wearing one of the items that she listed that had been burgled, that was missing. So, and they saw it in a social media post. I tell you, y'all be getting in trouble on this social media, especially these reality people. I just don't get it. Okay. Now, a police investigation determined that other items that they said were stolen had actually been purchased and returned to their respective stores, where a full refund was provided prior to the alleged burglary. So, yes, that is fraud, absolutely. In prosecutors' bail recommendation documents obtained by TMZ, prosecutors alleged that the couples claimed a $450,000 personal property loss via an insurance company. So they're just frauding all over the place. Representative for both parties, for the SFOs and Bravo Television, did not immediately respond to all of this. And we are going to wait to see what happens. Of course, they joined the Real Housewives of Potomac back in season 5. They're actually slated to appear in the new season, in Bravo's new series, excuse me, Wife Swap, the Real Housewives edition, and that coincidentally airs on Tuesday. So, of course, you'll have like a storyline, because this is all, very relative to the drama that they like. Now, the couple have, I believe they have 3 children, and they just celebrated their 14th wedding anniversary. So, this is very interesting. Of course, this isn't the first time the housewives of wherever have been in trouble, because, of course, we know that Teresa Giudice famously went to prison. She and Bubba Joe famously went to prison for fraud charges. Joe, as I mentioned in a couple of episodes ago, actually did his time, in part at least, at Fort Dix, where Sean Combs is requesting to do his incarceration. And then, of course, the woman from the Housewives of Salt Lake City, she is currently serving a sentence for fraud and stealing, theft, from old people. She was, stealing, promising services, and essentially was still stealing their life savings. I believe she got a multitude of years for that. So I don't know what to say, guys. I really don't know what to say. Why that is? Why are we, and to bottom all of this out, the Drake appeal is on. Now, Drake's attorneys have actually released a statement. I'm reading this from my other device. So apologies for me looking over, but they said the following. They said that we intend to appeal today's ruling. So they made the statement yesterday. And we look forward to the Court of Appeals reviewing it. So, of course, what I'm referring to is Drake's lawsuit against UMG for the uh, alleged defamation mentioned in the song Not Like Us by one K. Kendrick Lamar, where specifically the lyrics of Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile lyrics, and the insinuation that, Drake has had some dealings sexually with minors. And so Drake filed a suit against him. We did a whole episode on it yesterday. Went through the analysis of the dismissal from the judge, but wanted to mention that his attorneys have said we are going to appeal, as Cast and Court TV correctly predicted for you all yesterday. Before they even said it, we knew that he was going to appeal it. This is sort of Drake's style, to appeal and sort of not go down without a fight. Also, I think a lot of the reason why he's also appealing is because he knows how crazy he looks. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, I'm just going to continue to fight for something that I feel that I'm right for, because if I lay down and just accept the loss, then I'm going to look even crazier. But I disagree, Drake. I think you need to quit while you're ahead, which is you lost the battle, you lost the dismissal or the case, essentially. Just throw it all away and go on about your business. You got plenty of money to be happy. I know this is about ego at this point, and ego is a big thing, especially in hip hop. But what you can't do is litigate a rap battle. All right, guys. That's going to be it for Cast and Court TV for this Friday, October 10th. Appreciate you guys. We hope you have a great weekend. Remember that October is a domestic violence awareness month. We didn't do a lot of that this week, but next week we are going to get on our job and do a couple of episodes around that. I was going to get into it today, but unfortunately there was some news today that I had to sort of wrap up with this episode, and so we had to get to it. But we'll get to it next week, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on, as survivors. There are a lot of you who are survivors of domestic violence. I've spoken to a lot of you. I've exchanged messages with a lot of you regarding that, and I'm very interested to hear some of your stories. If you're comfortable sharing, would love to sort of talk to some of you and feature, a story or two, if it is appropriate, on the Cast and Court TV channel, to sort of be an inspiration to other people who are going through the same things, and also teaching people how to avoid these sorts of pitfalls. Okay. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon. I'll probably get with you tomorrow sometime. And until then, stay out of trouble. Keep it cool, keep it easy, and stay happy. Smile no matter what's going on. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, but keep your head up. All right, guys, we'll talk soon. Peace.